home to quite the treat in Week 3. Vikings-Bengals, 1 p.m. Eastern. Some questions maybe about who's going to play quarterback. And even though LSU is known as DBU, these two are proving why two of the top wide receivers in the game right now have come from LSU. Ja'Marr Chase and Justin Jefferson are constantly jawing for the title of best receiver in the NFL. Whether they're talking about the money, the trash talk on the field, or even the stats, these two bring the competition each and every week. And when you take a closer look at the numbers, you understand what I'm talking about. Both of these guys top 3 in terms of games with 165 plus yards. Chase is coming off of his 10th career game with 10 receptions, 100 plus receiving yards, and a touchdown. But Jay Jettas has the nod when it comes to career yards, so they're pretty close. We're going to break it down, though, and to do so, we've got our guy, 10-year NFL vet, Douzable, joining us. You're going to break down these two guys based on 5 categories, and we're finally going to answer the question, who is the better wide receiver between these two? So we've got speed, size, hands, the bigger dog, and we've got route running. I want to start with speed here. Who gets the nod?
I'm going to give it to Ja'Marr Chase. He had a quicker 40 at their LSU Pro Day. And when you look at his gameplay, you can literally dump off a 5-yard hitch to him, Haley, and he can take it 70 yards, right? He essentially turns into a running back with the ball in his hands, but he has that top-end speed. Not to say that Justin Jefferson isn't fast. I would give the slight edge, though, to Ja'Marr Chase when it comes to speed.
All right, I'm keeping a tally here. So Ja'Marr Chase gets the first nod. We got 4 more categories to go. We're going into size, Lige.
Justin Jefferson, just size alone, is bigger now. Ja'Marr Chase is thicker than him, and I talked about that earlier when it comes to him catching the ball and being in tight spaces and breaking tackles. But just size alone, pure height-wise, I'm going to go with Jettas on this one. I think he's a bigger receiver. He's able to go up and get more 50-50 jump balls. Now, Joe Burrow and Ja'Marr Chase do a really good job on that back shoulder fade. But when you're talking about throwing the ball down the field, those 50-50 jump balls, the height of Justin Jefferson comes into play.
Something Tommy Tran pointed out to me earlier as well, specifically when it comes to the size, is that these guys really aren't super tall. 6 foot for Ja'Marr Chase, 6'1" for Jay Jettas. So the fact that they're doing this, and I say super tall as I sit over here at 5'6". All right, Lige, let's go over to hands. We got 1 for each player here, so who gets the advantage when it comes to hands?
I got to go Jettas again. I vividly remember that Buffalo game, 4th and 22. Everybody in the stadium knows that Justin Jefferson is going to get the football, and he goes up with one hand and catches the ball with like 3 fingers and triple coverage, Haley. So, like, when you talk about pure hands, Justin Jefferson rarely drops any passes. Now, Ja'Marr Chase doesn't have drop issues as well, but I'm going to give the edge to Jettas just because I've seen it in big play scenarios with the game on the line. Get the ball to Justin Jefferson. He's going to make a play for you.
I can't wait to hear what your answer is to this next one. Biggest dog. I love that this has become a parameter for our NFL players. So who's the bigger dog between these two?
I lean towards Ja'Marr Chase. And that's not a shot at Justin Jefferson, but it's what I talked about earlier, Haley. With just the way that Ja'Marr Chase plays, if you just get him the ball in space, he essentially turns into a running back. There's numerous times where we see him take a little screenplay and go 70, 80 yards, and he breaks like 3 or 4 tackles. He has a low center of gravity, right? Great contact balance. So when it comes to guys just being able to have that dog mentality and a will to not go down, I give the edge to Ja'Marr Chase, and that's not a shot at Justin Jefferson because he's a dog in his own right, but I give the slight edge to Ja'Marr Chase.
It's kind of like a Doberman and a Rottweiler, right? Like
they're dogs, right there. Like, but, Pitbull, Rottweiler, which one do you want, you know?
Okay, so we've got a 2-way tie. Of course we do, right? So it's going to come down to this last one, which is route running. So when we come to crowning the best wide receiver, it comes down to this, Lige.
It is Jettas without a question. He's the best route runner in football. And for the longest time, Devontae Adams donned that, award as far as being the best route runner in football. But Justin Jefferson, the way he's able to create separation, knowing that he's going to get double teamed, game in and game out. Like, this dude is on a different level, Haley, when it comes to separation and being able to get open. He's so inventive with his tempo as far as setting up routes and knowing the leverage of the defensive back and which way to go to get his quarterback an easy target. Is Justin Jefferson for sure when it comes to route running.
All right, so we give the slight nod to Justin Jefferson. It comes down to the route running ability. I wonder if our NFL insider, JJ agrees. So what do you think, Jonathan? Do you agree with Lige that JJ gets the nod over Ja'Marr Chase?
Well, I mean, obviously, just look at the
initials,
names, right? I mean, there is no question. It's always a trip for me when I'm talking about J.J. McCarthy and Justin Jefferson as a J.J. So I am certainly the resident Minnesota Vikings fan because I have to be.
All right. Our JJ also has a relative newborn, too, so there's a lot of connections going on here when it comes to this matchup. So we'll give the nod to Justin Jefferson, but I do want to pivot and talk about the game itself, guys, coming up on CBS. You got the Vikings and the Bengals, two teams who, I don't know, when you look at the rosters, it kind of feels like this would be a competitive game. But, JJ, as we know, we've seen some injuries. There's some questions when it comes to these quarterbacks. So it's going to be Jake Browning versus Carson Wentz this week. I want to get your take on that. But before we do, JJ, take me into the future here. What's the expectation for this position going forward for both of these teams?
Okay, well, I'll start with the Cincinnati Bengals. They are rolling with Jake Browning. We have known that ever since Sunday afternoon, that Jake Browning is going to be the starter for the Cincinnati Bengals in Week 3. Won't be surprised if he's the starter in Week 4. They just signed Brett Rippon from the practice squad to the active 53-man roster, and so he is very likely going to be the backup to Jake Browning. And then today they signed to their practice squad Sean Clifford and Mike White. They'll see in practice today who is better, and then they will ultimately determine who could be the emergency third-string quarterback this upcoming week. If Jake Browning cannot float the boat for the Cincinnati Bengals over the next 3 months into December, the Bengals are going to need to determine that with some quickness. And at that point, they will need to execute a trade for someone, because I do believe the Bengals believe that they have too good of a team and too great of an offense to waste away this year. And so they like Jake Browning. They want Jake Browning to succeed. They hope that when he went 4-3 a couple of years ago, that he can repeat that and get 6 wins out of 10 games, 7 wins out of 10 or 11 games. But is that going to happen? Who knows? But I can tell you this, the Bengals have not made any calls around the league right now on any of the bigger names that you would have to trade for. And that would include a Kirk Cousins. That would include a Jimmy Garoppolo, if either one of their teams even wanted to part with them. Then on the Minnesota Vikings, you have J.J. McCarthy with that high ankle sprain, probably from a hip drop tackle that he suffered in that game on Sunday night. So he's going to miss between 1 to 3 games. And you have Carson Wentz. They like Carson Wentz. Kevin O'Connell says that they don't have to change anything, that he's picked up the offense. I always love when coaches say that, because the guy's been in the building for just a couple of weeks. We'll see about that. He's not going to play, obviously, against the Cincinnati Bengals. Next week against the Pittsburgh Steelers, you have the Minnesota Vikings traveling to Ireland for that game, and then Cleveland in Week 5 will be in London. Just because they are playing overseas does not mean that J.J. McCarthy cannot board a plane and join his team in Week 4 or 5. So we'll see how the ankle ultimately heals over time. But certainly a 1 to 3 week situation for J.J. McCarthy, and they're going to ride with Carson Wentz until then.
Carson Wentz, the first quarterback since 1950 to start for a different franchise in 6 straight seasons. So he has the experience, Lige, and he has it with 6 other teams. On the other side of this one, we saw what Jake Browning offers, right? We saw the game-winning touchdown, but we also saw the 3 interceptions along the way. How do you evaluate this quarterback matchup?
Well, to JJ's point, they have a lot of faith in Jake Browning, so much so that they didn't even really play him in preseason, right? And when you have a first and second string quarterback you have a lot of faith in, just because of the history of Joe Burrow, they didn't want to put Jake Browning in position to potentially get hurt. We saw the same thing with the Rams with Jimmy Garoppolo. So Jake Browning, going back to 2 years ago, he went over 500 for this team, right, in a 7-game span. He went 4-3. He has the subsequent weapons, to JJ's point, on the outside, right? They built this team for a championship run, and there's a lot of faith in Jake Browning. He just has to take care of the football. If he can replicate what he did 2 years ago, and you look at it, they get this, they steal a win versus Minnesota Sunday. They're 3-0. If he's able to go 7-7 the back half, that's 10-7. That most likely gets you into the playoffs. So it'll be interesting then what the decision for Joe Burrow is, because I know everybody's overly optimistic. 3 months is overly optimistic for him to come back from that turf toe surgery, because you have to think about it. He has to be healthy first, then he has to get in football shape, and then how long will it be since he's actually thrown passes to T. Higgins and Jamar Chase? So getting that continuity down again. But if Jake Browning can be the guy he was 2 years ago, there's a legit chance this Bengals team could sneak into the playoffs.
Joe Burrow officially on IR with a grade 3 turf toe injury. So to your point, we don't know when we'll see him. 3 months is optimistic. On the other side, we know J.J. out 2 to 4 weeks with a high ankle sprain. So, Lige, put you on the spot here. I got to get a pick from you. The Vikings get the slight nod at -3. Point total is 42.5. What's your play?
I'm going to go with the Bengals to cover. Give me points with them +3. JJ talked about it. Like, Carson Wentz has been there like 2 weeks. This is a complex offense for Kevin O'Connell, right? Sam Darnold was there the entire offseason when he picked up this offense. Wentz has only been there 2 weeks. Now, he does have the weapons on the outside. Obviously, you have Hawkinson and Jettas at receiver. But again, how many first-team reps has he taken? This will be essentially the first week that he takes first-team reps with this offense, who has really struggled the last couple of weeks with J.J. McCarthy at quarterback. I like the continuity of Jake Browning, having been in this system for multiple years, and he's been in this scenario before, coming off the bench to be a starting quarterback. Give me the Bengals +3.
All right, we'll see how much the best wide receiver in the game has to say about that when these two go head-to-head on CBS. JJ Lige, we appreciate the time. Week 3 returns to CBS this Sunday. It all begins with that game at 1 o'clock between the Bengals and the Vikings. And then in the late window, the Broncos have been struggling with Bo Nix and that defense. Can they hold off the Chargers? Join us Sunday on CBS.